for the finale of the top 25 prospects of the decade series. This is like 2 years in the making, but thank you all for the incredible support recently. I wouldn't be making this if it wasn't for y'all helping me do this and work to, do this full time. I really appreciate it. If you don't know how this series works, we're breaking down the top 25 prospects since 2013. Not based on what they did in the league, but solely based on who they were as prospects. This is solely my opinion of how they were, not the public perception. This is my opinion of their tape. Just get that straight. So like, subscribe would be amazing. What if we hit 300 likes? And 300 likes would be incredible. And maybe if we do that, I'll do a full video on number 5, Cade Cunningham, who is one of the most, probably the most ridiculous high school basketball player I've ever watched, honestly. And Cade was like a dominant downhill scorer in EYBL, where he'd use his great vertical pop and burst and handle to get downhill every time he wants. I will never forget this game playing against like Jalen Johnson and Patrick Baldwin and Reese Beekman, where he just got to the rim maybe 15 times, totally unimpeded. This is what Cade did. He overwhelmed with his strength, with his size, with his movement skills. All of that were just unstoppable at this level. The easy advantage creation was constant, and Cade was obviously an amazing passer as well. That's always one of his best things, that playmaking gene. But then when he got to Oklahoma State, it was the first time he really played with like a lot of not very good players, and he just went totally aggressive scoring mode. Cade had an absurd shot making year where he was like a solid shooter on low volume in high school and AAU, but 40% on 9 threes per 100, almost a 43-point attempt rate, almost 85% from the line. Like, those are crazy numbers for a 6'8 kid. And Cade was hitting from well beyond, the NBA line. He was comfortable spotting up, pulling off the dribble without any hesitation. He was a ridiculous shot-making prospect, even if it was kind of new. Cade's comfort pulling off the dribble was ridiculous for a guy his size. You would like snatch into behind the back jumpers all of the time. And because Cade was such a ridiculous space creator for his jumpers, defenses would play him out so damn far. Like, look at this coverage. Cade is getting a crazy trap here, or I guess Manic's trying to recover here, and he's just going to work his way to the rim, finish strong with touch. The combination of driving, creation, passing, like, look at that lefty finish. Beautiful spin, beautiful move to get past this defender, leap off of 2, hang and finish with his weak hand. That is absolutely phenomenal from one Cade Cunningham. And though his burst isn't like elite S tier, he has the kind of Luka, hint, the Luka ability to just muscle players down and get to whatever spot he wants, whenever he wants, and finishes with pace and touch. And just because he's so tall and big, he can just shoot over everybody. Cade made a living off of this, and of course was an amazing passer. People were misleading about his assist to turnover ratio, saying that he wasn't that great of a passer, when of course he was. If you watched the tape, you knew. Cade spinning baseline, left hand, no look pass to the interior right there. And again, we're going to see some of the pressure that Cade faced on a constant basis here, pushed all the way out to like the logo, and he's going to, survey the court, stare at the corner. Austin Reeves bails out of the paint because Cade is staring at the corner, and then nope, he's just going to zip it into the interior right there and get an easy layup. He was truly absurd when it came to like the vision and his handle and all of this stuff. This is one of my favorite Cade Cunningham plays that I think, he ended up capitalizing and hitting and getting an offensive board and missing a floater. But screen reject, great handle there. Another great handle to cross back in a tight space, lefty, or not lefty, but still a crazy wrap bounce pass that is big, just couldn't finish right there. This combination of dribbling skill, passing skill, shooting skill, and defense as well. He was an amazing defensive prospect, which I didn't even kind of get in there. I think Cade is someone I want to do a full video on, and people have are sleeping on too much at the moment. Like, and regardless, he was a special talent. These 6'6", 6'7" genius basketball feel shot maker handler talents don't always come around, and even though Cade isn't the most explosive player in the entire world, he easily makes up for that with his strength and his handle and his craft and his touch and all of that good stuff. So Cade Cunningham is number 5, the 5th best prospect of the last 10 years or so. Let's go to number 4, and that is going to be Joel Embiid, who just had a sick game in the Olympics game against Serbia today. And Joel was, you know, in ways as you would have expected, right? He was a dominant interior scorer. His post footwork was incredible. He was spinning baseline decisively. He could like handle the ball in transition with his insane speed and coordination and all of that good stuff. And Embiid was an incredible rim defender, so mobile and explosive. It's crazy to see Embiid, like 18, 19-year-old Embiid, move like he was and get off the floor as quick as he does. Obviously, you know, his body's changed a lot, lots of injuries. But the thing about Embiid that was so incredible to me as a prospect, which I have a whole video on my channel, it might literally be my first prospect video or one of my first ones, is the playmaking. Joel Embiid was an absurdly good playmaking center where he would spin baseline and manipulate his gravity, right? The help has to come or else Joel will get a dunk, so he easily drops it down to the help right there. He had crazy feel and instincts. Beautiful little Jokic outlet there to Wiggins, who ends up converting and finishing that shot. And Joel's processing speed to me was always so remarkably impressive. There was never any wasted motion or hesitation on these. He's looking for the interior here. Help comes. Joel dribbles out against the double and skips it to the weak side for a wide open three. He got doubled wing for a wide open shot. This is high level stuff for your, you know, fairly rawish, or by some people's standards, 18-year-old centers. And his processing in terms of reading help and reading open gaps was so good. Defense is basically 5 eyes staring at Joel. Looks like he's going to shoot, passes it to the wide open corner. This decision-making stuff, of course, wasn't perfect at the time, but it was a lot better than the perception, I think, at the time, or even just in general. Beautiful pass right here. Embiid getting doubled, goes baseline, whips it around a bounce pass outside to the corner. Like, that is a ridiculous read and a ridiculous delivery. And this was the stuff that Joel was just doing all the time. He was floating into space, processing the floor off the catch. It wasn't just from the post. He was making plays on the short roll. He was making plays on the move. And I would recommend going watch my old Embiid video. The vocals and production and, you know, quality might not be as good, but the content I think is really fun. Some of these same clips, but these are some new ones here. But yeah, Embiid obviously was very injured, and that was the thing. But injuries withstanding, his combination of dominant interior defense and scoring, as well as the special playmaking upside, makes him the 4th best prospect of the decade. And excuse me, number 3 is someone who, because of, you know, as well as because of comment requests, I'm going to be making a video on very soon. It's Zion Williamson, who I'm going to keep this fairly brief because I will go deeper into him soon. But Zion was just the most dominant interior scoring prospect I've pretty much ever seen. Toss it up to him from basically anywhere on the floor, and he is a lob threat. 6'6", extremely coordinated, quick, great ball handler, insane driver. Like, the explosiveness that he had in terms of first step for a guy that strong is just beyond rare. And Zion weaponized that with the great, like, change of direction on his handle. He was violent, cutting into gaps and changing direction and speeds and all of that good stuff. And Zion was also a ridiculously good playmaker. He drew so much help because of his all-time interior scoring, driving gravity. Behind the back here, simple dump down to his man in the dunker spot right there. But because nobody could hold Zion from the post, from the perimeter, this is an excellent read on the move where Zion creates an advantage here with a quick left to right cross. And the second the help steps up, Zion's firing it low to Delorier for a wide open shot. And honestly, I think it's easy to say that Zion still hasn't even come close to reaching his ultimate ceiling, despite being like a top 15-20 player when he's healthy. Just because Zion was an absurd defensive prospect too. Like, I will never forget this, one of the most ridiculous blocks of all time. Look at where Zion is when Hunter catches this ball. Like, Hunter had a slow release, sure, but holy shit, Zion's athletic tools were just absurd on the defensive end. And he hasn't been able to really tap into this that much in the league. Like, absurd rotation here. It's not just the crazy hops, but how early he's reading this play. He knows exactly where the ball's going before it gets there, so Zion can be in position to nab a steal like that. He had preternatural feel for the game on both ends. And I think like his touch wasn't terrible. I think he could have even been a better shooter at this point. And I still think the sky is the limit for Zion. And the fact that he's such an amazing player while also having clear improvement areas, like despite how great he is an example and shows how incredible of a prospect he was. Just the advantage creation, dominant feel, and defensive potential and like the scoring, the passing, everything he did was so dominant and overwhelming, and that makes him a top 3 prospect of the decade. We are getting to the cream of the crop here, and number 2 is a guy who I have done a video on, Luka Doncic. I will link that right now. So these are going to be, again, we'll go through this kind of quickly so we can get to number 1, which shouldn't surprise many people, but 17-year-old Luka in the EuroLeague, the second best league in the world, was a surgical passer. Fakes over top to the roller, kicks to the corner for a wide open shot. These are going to be most of the same clips from the video, but I'll talk more just like broadly about his prospect case, and the fact that he didn't go number 1 in that draft is just so beyond absurd. The fact that that draft had 2 prospects in the top 10, neither of them went top 2, Luka and Jaren Jackson, who was in the last video, which will be linked in the description. Luka, similar to honestly Zion and Cade, and we're noticing a theme, right? A lot of these star prospects have this preternatural feel for the game, right? This ability to create passing angles, to make smart plays, to open up shots for his teammates whenever possible, as well as some kind of special creation tools, where Luka was often like maligned for his athleticism pre-draft, when in reality he was a pretty great athlete in terms of changing directions, balance, strength, body control. Great job using his leverage to get a step, euro stepping through traffic and laying it down for a wide open dunker layup there for Tavares. His ability to make these plays, and even like his first step at the time wasn't that bad. Like he could get by some players off the dribble, and of course, anytime you left a gap open, Luka was going to find it. You just don't see teenagers with this kind of production and dominance fail, really. And Luka, of course, was a legitimate star in a great pro league, and he just immediately was that in the league, and it all made sense, where Luka just had special touch to his ability to feather in shots from everywhere. Also was an easy way to predict shooting improvement, right? Because he could get his shots off in the mid-range and this floater range, and he has one of the best handles for a 6'7" guy. Luka would vary his speeds and directions overall to get to whatever spot he wanted. And these same themes, right? Elite advantage creation, elite feel for the game, versatile scoring, and all of the above. Luka was truly special, and it seemed so obvious at the time. I remember, as someone who wasn't even really into the draft at that point, I was like, how is this guy not going number 1 after what he's done in Europe and the crazy tools and skills that he has? So Luka is number 2, and then number 1, the best prospect of the decade, should be no surprise, that's Victor Wembanyama, who is probably the most absurd pre-NBA defensive player that I've ever seen, and I don't think that's particularly close. Guys with his ground coverage and range and instincts just don't come often, and Wemby bends the court in ways that players just aren't used to, where usually if the drop big is playing up at the level, there's going to be an opening, behind him. With Wemby and his reflexes and wingspan, that's just not the case, because he can reach all the way down and get a ridiculous steal that basically no other player can really approximate, as well as these mean blocks where he would immediately flip his hips, rise, and just spike the ball away with his wingspan, unbelievable movement skills and instincts. All of this just was what made Wemby and what makes Wemby who he is. The ability to cover a ton of space and to cover up his own mistakes and defensive mistakes. He starts off his possession digging here at the nail, disrupting the drive, and then he ends it flying over to that pass and disrupting as well. He's one of the all-time defensive prospects. I don't think this is controversial or that deep or crazy to say. So I want to focus a little bit on the offense more, and Wemby's offensive development is one of the craziest things. I think Wemby was like 16 in these clips, and he really was just like a baby deer type player where he was like dropping the ball and couldn't really dribble without like falling over, right? And just couldn't maintain any semblance of ball control or functional handle against other players, especially not other pros. And to see how quickly that improved, where his last season, right, with Met 92, he was functionally handling off the dribble and spinning into easy dunks. He routinely made like good professional basketball players look like misplaced children, handling versus a decent defender, spinning back, maintaining control and dunking strong there. Like, Wemby obviously was skinny, but knew how to overwhelm with size and length and movement skills, and that's obviously what we've seen so far in his career. It's just ridiculous plays like this. No one is dunking from this spot except for 7'4" Wemby, who can not only dunk this because of his crazy wingspan and all of that, but get to this spot because he's comfortable enough as a dribbler to handle to his spot in the post. He doesn't need a guard to set him up, and he can score. So obviously the defense was incredible, but what makes him the greatest prospect maybe of all time is that offensive upside and the way that he was able to handle functionally, and of course score and shoot off the dribble, which may be his most ridiculous thing, right? Wemby flashed the ability to score and shoot off the dribble pretty much like as Met 92's primary ball handler, stepping back, and of course with that high release, basically no one can contest him. It's not fair that he could actually separate and create space, but even when there was no space and he was fading over two people, it was basically over. There was nothing you could do. Wemby was either going to make it or he was going to miss it, and you just kind of had to get lucky at that point. And Wemby's passing development was also pretty remarkable too. He developed so much from a guy who was, I had to include a clip of the floater 3 in there. Hopefully we see more of this in the next couple of years. But Wemby's processing speed, his feel for the game, his vision, all that improved so much with him as an on-ball creator, where a play like this is so advanced. Wemby in the post kind of gets double teamed here. Notices, though, that his man is slipping to the rim uncontested, and he's going to try to drop in an easy pass there. That's not a play most 18-year-old bigs are making, and it's certainly not a play that 17 or 16-year-old Wemby was making. So the rapid growth curve and development combined with his obvious once-in-a-lifetime combination of physical tools, movement skills, feel, and just scoring stuff. And it's not like these were just flashes. Wemby was the primary creator. He was scoring 21 points a game, grabbing 10 boards, blocking 3 shots on ridiculous offensive load. 31 usage is what the stars in the NBA get, and he was efficient. 57 true shooting improvement from 2021 is huge, right? Really efficient overall just because of his dominant interior scoring, dominant rebounding numbers, great assist rate for a big, dominant block rates, all of this, the advanced metrics loved him. There were very few holes to poke when it came to Wemby's game on both ends. And of course some people tried, but I think it's a testament to Wemby's greatness that I pretty much saw nobody saying that he was not the number one guy in the class. Even with the other players in this, like Luka, Cade, Zion, there were contrarians, right, who didn't have them number one for whatever reason. There were mostly bad reasons, but right, those people did exist. For Wemby, that pretty much wasn't the case. I can't recall a single even kind of serious draft person advocating to take anybody but him number one. So that and everything else we talked about makes Victor Wembanyama the greatest prospect of the decade, and probably even before that. But thank you all so much for the support, and I hope you enjoyed the end of this series. Once again, I'm going to link all of the videos, parts 5 through 1, in the description that you can go watch them if you want. Let me know what you want to see next and what kind of content you'd like to see. If there's any more ranking type videos you'd like to see, because those are fun to make and seem to do well, let me know, and have a great day.